Hello.
Hello, my name is Kay. I'm from Acrylic Chaser System.
My name is something, probably. I have no idea who I am. My name, you can call me Cryptid, the Cryptid System. Uh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, awesome. So we're kind of talking about system accountability today. I say kind of, but I mean we are.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Kind of.
Kind of vaguely. We'll figure it out. um,
Just vibing out here, thinking
yeah.
about it.
So I feel like maybe we should define what accountability is and what it means after you take accountability.
Sure, yeah. Um, well, what does accountability mean to you? Yeah.
Uh, okay, so for us, if you do something wrong, and this is vaguely just accountability, not just system accountability. If you do something wrong, you have to like take ownership of that. Like, yes, I did that. I hurt somebody, and I should take like blame for that because I am the one who did that action. Um, and I think like after you do that, you have to like provide some change. Like accountability means nothing. It's just a what do you call it? An empty apology if you don't change any behavior afterwards.
Definitely. Like for us, it's definitely like taking responsibility and ownership over an action, whether it be like purposeful or not, um, and making a change. Like, and also like addressing anyone who is like harmed by anything that you had done around it, even if you didn't mean to harm anyone. Like, you have to take accountability for and like responsibility and like for any harm that you caused. I think that's all I have to say on it.
You're all good. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just listening to my birds do this nervous tick that we do. Like we do this sound, and they continuously do that when they're happy. So
Oh, that's cute. They're making little kissy noises back.
they're adorable. Um, but yeah, so what is accountability not?
It's definitely not blaming others.
Yeah. So I feel like an example could be I'm talking like our 4-H life before we went ahead and got on YouTube and graduated high school. um, so like we never took accountability for our actions before. Like that was something we had to really learn. Um, like there was one time where we screamed at somebody in our horse world because they told us we were doing something wrong, and we are like, I'm not doing that wrong, you don't do this right. Like, and so we didn't even stop to think and listen to what they were saying. We just immediately lashed out. And that, to me, that's the prime example of not taking accountability for your actions. Like, you did something wrong, somebody's trying to help you, and you're just lashing out angrily.
Yeah, for sure. Like we have some really good examples, honestly. Like we're not that's the thing, is like even though like, you know, like maybe like a year ago we were just in a really, really bad place. And, that's not an excuse for the things we did, but like that's the reason why it was happening. And I was lashing out at my partner because I didn't know who he was. I didn't know. And so I was just kind of sitting there, you know, like freaking out all the time. And there were things like I couldn't possibly understand what was even going on. But even in that moment, I should have known not to hurt somebody else or like lash out or yell at someone else. Like I didn't hurt anyone, but like it was definitely a moment where like we were just like not taking accountability, even though we were triggered and like we weren't diagnosed, we didn't know anything that was going on. Like I still have to take like responsibility for the fact that like I yelled at my partner and scared him, you know, and it
Yeah.
was not great. Um and that's something that, you know, even though like I wasn't intentionally doing that to someone to hurt them, I was just scared and lashing out because I was triggered. I still have to take accountability of not having positive ways of coping with that
Mm-hmm.
and not taking like the responsibility to figure out that sooner and like maybe like, you know, get some help for it.
Yeah.
You know, which we're doing now, which is great. And that's wonderful. But at that time, you know, it wasn't a great look.
Yeah. And I think that's like the perfect entryway into system accountability. You know, we've been talking about just regular accountability. Anybody in their life, you know, like they can relate to that first part, but system accountability is a little different because a lot of systems when they're first like learning everything, they're like, well, I'm a system, so that person did this, that wasn't me, you know. And it's definitely something that you have to learn, but
Mhm.
like if an alter says or does something to somebody else that's not appropriate, like you have to take accountability for that. That was your body. And like it doesn't seem fair, but it was a part of you. And like not everybody understands what DID is. You have to take accountability for that, even if you don't remember it or you didn't do it yourself.
Exactly, because like you said, it's like we're all a part of like each other. And like even if like the dissociation is really strong and you know there's huge amnesia walls, like we're still part of the same brain. And we still all have to be accountable for the slice of brain that we hold. All of the brain is our brain. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'm so silly. But yeah, it's just yeah, it's that's something that I did notice. Um, a lot of like, because we, you know, we're pretty new to being diagnosed with DID, and it's something that you know we've struggled to kind of like orientate ourselves correctly, because there's a lot of like people preaching like not like the opposite of that, and it's like very like, oh, we are all different people, we are all like individual. And while that is true, it's also true that we're all part of one whole and we all have to be accountable for that whole that we are all part of. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really hard for some systems to grasp because there's such amnesia. Like you were saying, there's like heavy amnesia with some systems. Some systems don't even know that they're a system. And
Mhm.
like, I don't blame them for that. When you find out you are a system and those actions were like your body's actions, like then it's time to take accountability for that
Mhm.
because it's, you know, like just because you didn't know it happened doesn't mean it didn't happen. And
Exactly. And just because, and like that's a really good point. If you just find out about something you did and you didn't even know that you did, right? I think like once that has been shown to you, I think it is in your hands, um, to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And to, and like sometimes taking accountability will look like apologizing to certain people. It'll look like, you know, different things depending on the situation. But I think in that kind of situation, it would look like getting any kind of help or finding some kind of way to like, sorry, I lost my train of thought all of a sudden.
you're all good. Just,
Some kind of way to make sure that that just doesn't happen again.
mm-hmm. And also not immediately say that didn't happen. You know, there's those out there that are just like No, I didn't do that. You know, our ex Stacy trademark, who, if you've been watching the channel for a little while, you know who is. We've spoken about her. We told our story. Oh my god. We would tell her she was awful. She was awful. We should have broken up sooner, but anyway, we would tell her like, "Hey, you said this last night." She's like, "No, I didn't. I never said that." And I was like, You did." And she's like, "You're making me feel like I'm crazy." I'm like, "You have D.I.D. You have amnesia. Like, you how do we say like you're not crazy, but this happened, and you gotta talk about it. Like, find the person who did it."
Mm-hmm. No, I have a okay, I'm gonna be right back really quick because my dog is playing with my cat and she's getting upset.
You're good.
So what was I just saying?
Um, we just got done talking about Stacy.
Right. Okay, yes. And so I had a similar problem actually before I was diagnosed of just not being able to be like that happened. Like I trusted my own brain so much that it was like you absolutely are lying to me. Why would I do something like that? Why would I say something like that, you know? And I felt really bad. Like that was part of, the problem with me. But the second that I got diagnosed with D.I.D and realized that I was, well, it wasn't, me, but it Blaine that was freaking out and not understanding who even my partner was, and thought it was like some kind of like, he thought it was one of my exes for some reason. It kind of like got mixed up in our brain for some reason. And it was really hard for me to like be like, oh, like we were wrong, but we have to, because like we were. And even if we didn't, like, even if we were in our mind like telling the truth, like Blaine was genuinely scared that he had been kidnapped or something, and like all this crazy stuff. He was like genuinely terrified, but he also has psychosis and delusions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, oh, but I don't. So I didn't understand, how all of that could happen. But the second that we started like seeking help for it and trusted our partner to be like, oh, like, yeah, like maybe I am a little nutters right now. Like maybe there's something going on. And our like we had to trust our partner completely in that maybe we didn't know what was going on. And that's really hard, especially when you want to trust your own brain so much. Um, but it led to our diagnosis. So I'm always going to thank him for that. I'm always going to thank him for being able to like stand by me and know that that wasn't me. And
Yeah.
I just need some help.
Yeah. No, and I think it's important to like, if you are around people that do know what DID is, and like, yeah, you have to take responsibility for your alters, but also if your alters are fronting around somebody that knows you have DID, they need to know that they have to take accountability for their own actions too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not reliant on the host or whoever's fronting always. Like, it is, but it's also not, because if
Right.
that altar is around their main fronter, like, they should be taking responsibility for their own actions as well. Like, it's
Yeah.
not just a one glove fits all or whatever.
No, they all have to be kind of like on the same page, I guess. And I mean, for a while, Blaine wasn't ready to be sorry or take accountability. So I was taking accountability for him and being like, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. This was our fault, our bad. But eventually, like after, because I think with one of the things that we were like trying to do, it was like our accountability kind of looks um like Destin and I'm James, coming in and making sure Blaine goes to therapy and making sure Blaine gets help and sees this in a different perspective. And eventually he turned around and he's been doing better about that, and he's been able to actually enjoy life again, which is great. But you know, there's like, I think part of that is like being a system is you kind of have to take accountability of like, if there's someone in the system who has understanding of what's going on, they need to be able to contact that part or find a way to contact the part that isn't taking accountability, and you know, kind of help them, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I think that leads to the second part of accountability, which is change.
Yeah,
Like you cannot have you cannot be taking accountability if you're not changing your action. That's an empty apology. That's an empty sentiment. So like I guess the changes can be subtle. It can be going to therapy, or they can be big, like changing that behavior completely.
yeah,
So I feel like going to therapy for systems is taking accountability for your alters, because like you realize that you got something going on. You're
mhm.
not in complete control. Like you're not in control at all, honestly. Let's be honest. We're not in control.
No idea what's going on at any given time.
But you're seeking help to try and regain control. And
Mhm.
like that's a big part of taking accountability for being a system in general.
Yeah, and if you can't get to therapy, doing other things like keeping a system journal and making sure that you're at least attempting to contact those parts and make an effort, that's also, you know, I think a really good, you know, part to include because, yeah, see, we're all just scrambled this morning.
Oh yeah, no, it's all good. It's a good way to be making changes and continuing to take accountability.
Yeah, even if you can't get into therapy, like having um system journal, or we have whiteboards all around our house, which really help. I actually have to find the whiteboard markers because we just ran out, but they're all around and they help, kind of like with remembering things that have gone on, and then yeah, hmm, yes.
Yeah. I think a story we like to tell when we're talking about accountability, um, it's funny in retrospect. But at the time we were terrified. We were like, oh my God. So we have this altar. And we've told this story a couple times on the channel, but there's new people here. Um, so we have this altar named Silver, and he is just absolutely intrusive thoughts, just inappropriate behavior, teenage boy stuff.
Exactly, yeah. That's the for us.
Um, we're we were with our first therapist that was seeing us for D.I.D. She made us so uncomfortable, but that didn't matter. And she had a lazy eye, and Silver sitting there in the back, like fourth or fifth session with her, and he's just sitting there. He's like, "Which eye do I look at?" And we're sitting there trying to be like, don't laugh, don't give anything away, you know. And if he were to have said that out loud, we would have been mortified, and we probably wouldn't have gone back for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
but, but in the end, he and this is part of taking like responsibility and realizing what you did. It's not just apologizing to people around you, it's apologizing to people in your system as well. So he
Yep.
apologized to everybody in the system, was like, yo, I'm like so sorry, that was so rude of me.
Yeah.
But like, in retrospect, it's funny. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah, that is, that's hilarious. But
Like we're trying not to laugh in therapy, and yeah. But now he's taking like accountability, and we feel better, and we can laugh about it.
yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
he's changed too. Like he's not just screaming out whenever he sees something that looks a little peculiar to him.
That's good. Yeah.
Progress.
Hell yeah. um, I don't see, we don't have like a lot of internal communication, but Blaine has been able to apologize for some of the things like to us, but I think we're still kind of working on like the like system relationships that we have because we all struggle to get along still. So it's really it's interesting here. But it's something that, you know, that's something that we are striving for, and that is something that we are taking steps to get there, you know, like because we also have issues with Blaine. Like I need to take accountability for that actually, because part of me doesn't want, you know, to like connect with him because of some of the things that he's done. So, you know, part of it is that I've pushed him away, and
Mhm.
that's why he acts out in certain ways because I haven't been able to listen to him. So, me taking steps to like listen to him and read his things that he leaves for me in the journal and making sure that he feels safe and comfortable also helps him take accountability for his actions so that he feels listened to and heard, because everyone needs to listen to and hear each other and have empathy for each other in the system. Otherwise, we're all just going to be fighting all the time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be our next. I think it's our next video. I don't know. Our yeah, our Patreon votes for videos and stuff on our Patreon, and our next video is actually system journaling, and I feel like that definitely helps with system accountability because it's like you have to have, well, you don't have to do anything when you're journaling, but like our therapist recommends having some rules for our journal, like if you are going to be journaling in this journal and not your own personal journal, like please leave your name and like, you know, where you are in the system and stuff like that. So like it does help because then you're like learning how to communicate with your alters and being able to see what they're going through,
Mm-hmm.
um, and stuff. And I know that relates to accountability, but my brain's not making the connection right. The second I was going somewhere.
It's okay. We're on that vibe. It's like, ah, yes.
um,
I've connected the dots. Nothing. I've connected them.
but yeah, um, and I think we should talk about like accountability also in general relating to mental illness. So like if somebody upsets you and you self-harm, you can't blame somebody else for that type of thing. Um, because
Yeah.
that's happened a couple of times in like just in general in the mental health community.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the DID community, the mental health community. You know, we used to, when we were a teenager, I can't even remember her name. She lived in Canada, but we used to follow somebody who dealt with depression and self harming and things like that. And she even talked about this and how she lashed out at somebody, you know, blaming them for self harming. And like, that, obviously, it wasn't whoever's fault because you, the person, are physically responsible for your own body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I feel like there needs to be a differentiation between like emotional response and physical response because you
Mm-hmm.
can't control emotions, but you can control your like physical actions.
Yeah, I think that ties into like taking accountability for how you act when you're triggered. Because I mean, the thing is you can't you know, prevent yourself from being triggered necessarily, but you can prevent yourself from harming others when you are. And we all have responsibility for like how our like we act in our body, and like it's never okay to like blame someone for harming ourselves or harm someone else. And that's, you know, like never, like just because it's a trauma response doesn't make it okay.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma responses can be toxic, and those,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
usually why people go to therapy in the
Yeah.
first.
which is what we're going to be talking about in our next video. It's going to be on your channel.
Yes.
Little plug in there.
Yeah.
I think the perfect example for that is actually back when we had our whole kidnap situation with Ether. If you guys missed that, there's a video.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. And we had made Instagram posts because that person was planning on going to the conference in California. It's California, right? Yeah. The conference in California, the Entitled to Life.
Oh, yeah, that's in
Yeah.
San
They
Francisco.
were planning to go to that conference. But then we were talking to their ex, and we found out that he okay. So we'll just say his name is GT and the other person's name is SO. So we found out that GT had assaulted SO like physically, and this is still up on our Instagram too. It's on one of our highlight reels, and had blamed SO for the assault. Like 100% was like, you made me do this. You made me physically attack you.
Oh my gosh.
I don't care who you are or what you've done or how you're feeling. There is no excuse, none whatsoever, unless it's self-defense for laying your hands on another being.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But I think that's like one of the perfect examples of not taking accountability for your actions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's an extreme version, I think, of
Mm-hmm.
it, but that's definitely a pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted that example out there because like people can kind of see the smaller little things from the big example, you know.
No, definitely. Extreme examples are very good. That's why hyperboles are a thing.
But yeah, so I feel like to end there is a pretty good note.
I think so. My
Yeah.
brain's like in fuzz mode. I'm like, tease.
Yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, so I guess the takeaway from this is take accountability for your actions because nobody else is you except for you. Even if you have alters, you still have one body, one brain.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've taken accountability, make that change because accountability means nothing when there's no change of behavior.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is Cryptid System. They're amazing.
You're on. And this is Acrylic and Aether System. And they're pretty freaking rad too. So I'm like trying not to swear so much, but I'm
you're
like,
good. We swear on our channel occasionally. I think it's like if you're swearing every 30 seconds, they'll demonetize you. But if you're swearing like throughout the videos, she'll. But yeah, so check out their channel. We're going to be doing another video on their channel, talking about people and how to identify toxic behavior in yourself and others. So,
hell yeah. I'm
all right.
excited. All right.
Thank you all. And you guys have a great day, morning, night, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are.
Have a great week. Make it a week.